travels has been restricted in Nigeria since March as a measure to check the spread of COVID-19. Well, it's a measure that has been adopted by many other countries in the world, and this has put a strain on enforcement agencies. But in spite of this, we hear a lot of stories of people who have still gone to different states in the midst of the restriction, begging the question of the effectiveness of this measure. Well, we're going to discuss this and much more as it concerns interstate travel and the restriction on this episode of Special Report. You're welcome. I'm Amy John Mekwa. Lockdown has been trending in the world since the beginning of the year and could favorably compete with the usage of COVID-19 or coronavirus. Since the restriction of movement in March, interstate travels has been heavily monitored to allow only essential persons and goods. Gradually, there's been ease to allow more economic activities in the country, but movements across borders remain under strict observation of various enforcement agencies. At the Lagos-Ibadan Express border into Lagos State, with a curfew of 10 p.m. to 4 a.m., the road has been busier with vehicles trying to meet up with the time. Trucks with essential items, especially food, are allowed to go through, but not for persons, which is why many have resorted to travel across the border by foot. It's about 12-13 weeks now since the interstate travel restriction in Nigeria. The police public relations officer in Lagos State, Bala Elkana, says it's been a period of discovery for them, as some individuals have been creative about how to get into the state against the lockdown order.
Bringing in things here to sell, then they return. Now, the lockdown affects what they do. So they find a way to still do those businesses, even with the lockdown. So they know that commercial vehicles don't move, but trucks move with food item. So they hide under the food item. So at first, the first week, you check the trucks, you check the food item, and you clear them. Then they now understand that that means if they don't ask us to bring down every single thing from the truck, we can hide some people inside. They will only check and see that goods covered. When we discover that, we stop them, drop the things, then we begin to see human beings inside too. Drop everything. It's very tedious to start bringing out all those things loaded in the truck. When you start that, it sounds crazy. Somebody will be thinking police has started again. What kind of stress are you asking me to go through now, bringing down things? But you see the results. From the commencement of the lockdown up to the period of the gradual ease of the lockdown up to this moment, we have quite a number of persons that were arrested for violating the total lockdown, violating the curfew and some of the guidelines given and to stop the spread of the virus. So far we have over 4,000 violators arrested in Lagos over the last 3 months. Vehicles also impounded. We have over 3,000 vehicles impounded. Among those violators, again, we have up to 800 that are for interstate travels. Then buses. Among the vehicles that were impounded, we have buses also for interstate travel that were impounded, both interstate and those within the Lagos State that are not supposed to move within certain hours, and they are moving and they do not also fall within the essential categories. And the good part there is we got the support of the Lagos State Judiciary and the support also of the Lagos State Ministry of Justice to have the mobile courts working. So you don't need to keep those persons arrested in a facility. All you need to do is, as they are arrested, they are taken before the mobile courts. And mobile courts also give them punishments that do not require them going into custody. That is non-custodial punishments, mostly fines and community service.
In north-central Kwara State at Jeba border into the state, with over 200 confirmed cases and 6 deaths, it's not as busy as Lagos State, but enforcement officials still have their hands full. Residents around the area seem to prioritize livelihood over living.
My business is not moving. Business is not moving. Things is not moving. Some people now used to feed, their family. But if they are not moving up and down to find solution and how they will feed, they cannot, assist the family.
Economic reasons once again pose a challenge to the officers charged with the responsibility to ensure that the spread of COVID-19 at the border is curtailed.
Where we have border lockdown, some of these authorities still devise means of beating the border lockdown. They follow footpaths, follow other rough roads in order to beat the checkpoints, thereby finding their way inside the town. But I want to also say that this interstate, the ban has a lot of good and evil, because for some time now, at a point in our office, we apprehended some interstate, some vehicles that beat the borders. Perhaps they are coming from Lagos or maybe Oyo State. We don't really know their destination, where they were coming from, but we caught them in Kwara State, here, the capital of Kwara State, where we tested some of them. We were given infrared thermometer by our office in headquarters in order to be checking the visitors that are coming to our premises and those that are going, apart from washing of hands and sanitizing. So when we checked some of them, we discovered that 7 of them had high temperature, and because of that, we isolated them. We called the state committee on COVID-19 to the medical team. They came and picked them. They took them to Sobi. At the end of the 4 of them tested positive. So you can imagine, if they were not tested, only God knows how many people those 4 can see multiply the infection too. Because as they will come, people will still come and greet them. Oh, you're welcome, Mama. You're welcome. And before you know it, it keeps on escalating and spreading. So the ban, to a large extent, is very good if it is strictly adhered to. But as it is now, maybe because of economic situation in the country, many people are crying that their means of livelihood have been withheld from them. They couldn't have access to what they used to do again in order to feed their family. So we see a lot of them still finding ways of beating the traffic.
Leading the enforcement team, the police records a high degree of non-compliance. The state commissioner says that they've had to deal with the situation at the borders, even though they are not equipped as they would have preferred to be.
We don't have adequate personal protective equipment that the medical workers have. We are as exposed as the medical workers, the health workers too. But you see that there is nobody to give us overall and protective aprons. We have to still appear in our uniform. We are expected to go and arrest a violator that we don't know its status. We don't know whether the violator has just been exposed or is already infected. But police is expected to make arrest him and get close to him. But you remember, we are human beings, and we have to also protect ourselves. All that we had is just our face mask and gloves. And that's why you see me appearing in long sleeve shirts now. It's not that I like to wear long sleeve shirts, but in the absence of an overall, protective headgear, so I have to start appearing in long sleeve shirts now. So we have that challenge of PPE for our men. Then 2, the social distancing rule makes it difficult for us to interact the way we used to interact. We are used to physical interaction in our meetings. We call our officers together, we call our men together to talk to them on issues. But now we can't do that again because of the social distancing rule. We have to create social WhatsApp platform to communicate with our officers. At a time, we introduced the Zoom application, which most of the time are not, we don't have, the network is not usually friendly to go on with Zoom application and all of that.
These challenges faced by the security agencies have not gone unnoticed by some analysts. One of them, Musa Aliyu, who is a resident of Kwara State.
In Kwara State, the interstate travel has never been effective because we don't have an enabling environment that can warrant it being effective. Number one, the use of security. It is a known fact that the people manning all borders across the states are not properly adequately taken care of in terms of logistics, in terms of their provisions, in terms of their welfare. So you should expect them to compromise being human beings. That is one. Then two, there is not enough sensitization of populace on the need why they're supposed to expose people coming to their mates from other states. So we can holistically tell you that the interstate travel, as far as Kwara State is concerned, it was never effective.
But what I'm saying is,
Security expert Dr. Onaikomo agrees with this observation and supports it with the seeming increase in attacks recorded during the period. His notion may not be far from reality, as the country has seen protests in states like Katsina over insecurity. This has led to a meeting between the president and security chiefs with reports of displeasure by the executive over their performance.
we saw what happened with the Awawa boys, with the Million Boys, and then the headsmen, worst of all, they took the lockdown as an opportunity to attack a lot of villages in the northwest of the country. We saw Boko Haram go very deadly in their own raids and all. In the case of the states around the Rugu forest, they were attacking all 6 states. The bandits were. So if they are attacking 6 states, it means they are crossing one state boundary to the other. So we think that those kinds of things gave people became disillusioned. And now, part of the argument had been, yes, you are trying to save our lives, but what about our livelihoods? He said, it's either hunger kills us or COVID will kill us. But COVID we are not seeing, so hunger we are seeing. We are feeling the pangs. So that I'm just giving you the meta processing of citizens. And so people started resisting the lockdown. So I would say for right now, it's not effective at all because I know people who have traveled from Benin this past week here. I know people who traveled from Port Harcourt last week here. People travel across many state lines and they come here. They come to Lagos, they go back. There are transporters who travel every day. They carry passengers from Lagos to other destinations and from other destinations here. Now, I know what the president said was that, goods will be allowed through, food will be allowed through, but no passenger traffic. But that's observed in the breach.
This breach in compliance would normally point fingers to the security agencies, especially the police, which is expected to lead the pack. There have been stories of compromise by officers, which has led to non-essential travels, especially under the cover of darkness.
One truth we must tell ourselves is, no matter how hard you work to make things work out fine for everybody, you will find out that we have some few Nigerians, few individuals, who will always like to be on the wrong side of history. But from the police, Nigerians in uniform, I always describe, because when people are talking, they try to make it look as if those in uniform are even non-Nigerians. They describe them in such a different manner. These are Nigerians in uniform. Then Nigerians who are not in uniform. The few Nigerians in uniform and the few Nigerians who are not in uniform, who choose the wrong side of life, who choose to do the wrong thing, will always find a way to do it. Desperate Nigerians, criminal-minded, then few police, Nigerians also in police uniform, who also want to aid those ones to break the law. That has always been it. Then on our part, getting much aware of that, knowing fully well that you can't have a certain without having few individuals who will break the law. That is why there are measures put in place to checkmate such kind of human beings.
Entering Jos, the capital of Plateau State, is allowed only after strict scrutiny in compliance with the COVID-19 measures. The economic impact is not lost on business and transport operators who say they appreciate the efforts to control the pandemic but plead for a different approach which would not continue to stifle their means of livelihood.
Well, they should put other measures in place, like wearing of face masks, having your sanitizer, make sure you wash your hands. These are what they need to do to educate the people what to do in order for them to curtail the spread of the virus. But saying that you hinder business, you're also grounding them, and that will also lead to death also, and other kinds of crime that will escalate in the future. We don't know, but we pray that it doesn't happen. But that can also happen.
We are appealing to government to look into Interstate. If there's any measure that government can take it, let government take it, where before entering from Plateau to other state, maybe you can fumigate the vehicle, or you can checkmate all the members and you check them, their high pressure or anything, to see how they are. Because we are appealing to the government, with that Interstate, some of our branches cannot survive.
There have been cases of the fines of the travel restriction by individuals not captured in the essential category, from unbranded interstate buses conveying persons to others who were accused of using the elitist status. However, the Public Transport Owners Association say they've been the worst hit.
The figure within our industry, we reckon that total losses will be in the neighborhood of 200 billion naira. It's been heavy on our industry, on our members. We've been stranded all this while with no activity, and we still have costs that we are bearing. We have our vehicles that we need to continue to pay attention to so that they don't freeze up altogether, so that not on the day of resumption you find out the vehicle. So we are incurring costs, and we have workers, staff, and their dependent relatives. We have tried our best to give them some stipend or part of their salaries. It has differed from company to company to the extent that each company can assist in the workers. The economy has suffered most, as a result of this ban on interstate economy, because businesses, all businesses, rely upon, interstate transportation. Without interstate transportation, many businesses, even those that have been opened, they are not working at full throttle. They are working partially. Customers are not coming. There are states that have hotels where there is no ban on hotel, and they get 5%, 10% of customers, because who are the people going to hotels in the first place? There are people who are traveling into town. So transport industry being shut is affecting the economy, and it's affecting a lot of small businesses.
Giving a broad perspective to the impact, economist Dr. Abiodun Adedipe says even those involved in essential services have recorded losses in the period.
Now, if you have your factory, let's say in Lagos, and what you do is you process the rice onto that stage where you can bag and now sell it to the final consumer. It means if the paddy rice you process in Lagos is not produced in Lagos, that immediately has implications in terms of the logistics, which is an important component of the supply chain. Now, it means then that if those materials, whether they are raw in nature or intermediate semi-processed, before they can get to your factory, that becomes a major challenge. So even when you are in business considered to be essential, that also is still impacted, because for every state border you cross, there is some measure of restriction. In fact, there are times that the time you spend in crossing from one state border to another takes several hours. We've seen instances where some take days. So what that means then is that there's a slowdown in your cycle of activity. And once the cycle of activity is slowed down, that also affects your output invariably. So there will be a slowdown. So ordinarily, therefore, what you would have expected as what we produce as a nation in 2020 becomes now discounted for those delays on one hand. Then the other side to it is that those activities that can invariably not cross the borders, again, will also be affected. So if I run a poultry farm, just again to pick another to illustrate, and my poultry farm is, let's say, in Ondo State, or let's say even Kwara State, but my primary market is Lagos, though I sell in some other states, it means for me to get from Kwara to Lagos, I must cross the boundary from Kwara to Oyo State, then cross from Oyo to Ogun, and then cross Ogun to Lagos. That means I must deal with 3 state boundaries. Now, if you consider how long it takes to cross each of them in the light of these restrictions, then it means that by the time I deliver, in fact, I will be even lucky to deliver the poultry still alive. All right? Now, the other side to it is, if what I major in is to deliver eggs, that also will affect the shelf life of the eggs, because the journey I now make, ordinarily that would have been done in a matter of a few hours, now takes several days to complete. That, of course, will affect the shelf life of the product whenever I deliver to the market. So whichever way it goes, we can begin now to do numbers and make estimates as to how this might affect economic activity. So ultimately, the restrictions will affect the value of the economic activities that will happen within Nigeria this year. I'm not even talking about this quarter. I'm talking about this year when we aggregate everything. So certainly, it's going to affect the value that we create this year. And that's the starting point.
With intensified efforts by scientists and medical experts globally to find cure and vaccine against COVID-19, Dr. Adedipe advises that Nigerians in the transport sector as well as other sectors prepare to maximize the opportunity which the pandemic also creates.
What do I need to do now to prepare myself for when there will be an uptick in fresh demand? Because the moment that restriction is lifted, you can be sure that almost every transporter will be on the road. Almost everybody, including those that have no business to be on the road, will come on the road. It's a natural thing. It is not Nigerian. It's a human phenomenon. And so for the transport, as I would say, this should be a time not to complain about the restriction, but strategically to prepare for when the restriction will be lifted. If I were to advise them on that, what I will first talk about is, if you look at the economic activities happening in Nigeria, the first question would be, which sectors currently dominate economic activities? So when you talk about those sectors, that is what is being done right now. The next question will be, where are those things happening? In which case, where they happen will give me an indication of where I have to position myself in the logistics chain for individuals, for corporates, and for government. This is a time we should begin to look at how much we can do on the digital space. That means, how can we create value? We call it end-to-end value creation on the digital platform. Now, you look at your own business, let's say as a business person, and ask yourself, to what extent can I initiate a transaction online and conclude it online and possibly have payment received online? So that should be a consideration now for everybody. That means, therefore, that most activities in organizations at a point like this should be automated. And it goes across the board. You need to automate. So in automating, that means whatever technology can handle, you let technology handle it. That is the new normal. That's the reality today.
So how is the interstate restriction affecting you, your business, and your personal life? Please share with us on our social media platforms. Also, remember that while it is very important to make a living, one can only make a living when one is alive, which is why obeying the measures to check the spread of COVID-19 is top on the list. That's it on this episode of Special Report. I'm Imi John Mekwa.